Hello, I'm Nathan Duff with ClarksdaleInfo.com, Clarksdale's homepage. We're here today with Clarksdale Police Chief Whit. He's going to fill us in a little bit about things his department's been up to these last few weeks. Thanks for taking some time to talk to us today. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. First thing I wanted to ask you about is the arrest y'all made recently in the Andy Harris case. Can you tell us a little bit?
We can. It was, obviously we received some information, and it was a lot of Facebook stuff that went out, some misleading information along with some fairly accurate information. The detectives did pick the case up and work it, and we have made an arrest, 12-year-old juvenile, which statutes of law, I'm limited to what I can tell you.
Right.
But being 12 years old, he still will be tried in the juvenile courts. Of course, the juvenile courts can make a decision on that, but normally, more often than not, he will stay inside the juvenile court, and whatever they hand down, be his punishment.
Okay. Another thing that's been on Facebook a lot in the last few weeks has been the discontinuation of the police report, and we've gone over a lot of that on ClarksdaleInfo.com with various other elected officials and tried to kind of clear the air on why y'all made that decision. If you want to just kind of elaborate and give us your department's perspective on why that was discontinued.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that, because I think the public really understanding when it started, how it evolved, and where it's going, and where we are today. That press release actually started back in early 2000. As you know, from 2002 to 2006, we were involved in Project Safe Neighborhoods.
Right.
And we had a lot of trials going on outside the city, even outside the county. We were having cases in Greenville, Oxford, and Aberdeen. And obviously the U.S. Attorney's Office, along with the police department, wanted the community to be aware of these types of cases, that we were getting federal convictions. At that period of time in Clarksdale, the crime rate was extremely high.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to get them in there. We wanted people to see the effect of a federal case. And we also wanted the bad guys in the city to see the effects of the outcome.
Right.
If you go over there and you get convicted, that this could be the possible sentence that you're looking for. So that's how it evolved, and it's continued. And in 2012, we went to a new reporting system, a Tyler reporting system, which we refer to it as RMS. And what happens is the dispatcher gives out a call to the officer. The officer may arrive on the scene, and the call may have been dispatched as, we'll just say, a burglary.
Okay.
But once the officer gets there, it doesn't constitute a burglary. A threshold wasn't broken, or the statute wasn't met. So
right.
It could be a malicious mischief, or a trespass, or a petty larceny.
Right.
So he changes that in his report.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he doesn't have the authority to override what the dispatcher has done. So sometime during the day, myself or one of my assistant chiefs will look through that, and we make administrative decisions on these reports. So obviously, if they get out to the public before we've done that, we're putting out a lot of incorrect information. We don't want to hide anything, but we also don't want to give a higher crime perception than what we really have.
Right.
And a lot of times that's what you'll get. An average citizen, they don't know the statute of law. They only know what the problem is, and they call it in, and they give it a legal terminology that doesn't fit the law.
Right.
So we have to put it in there and change the context of it. And obviously, if this happens at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the press release would go out sometimes before 7,
Right.
It hadn't been looked at.
Okay.
And we just want to make sure that we give the citizens and the news and the media accurate information, that we have time to look at it. And we're going to develop some system in order to put that out.
Okay.
Also, I believe it's, we kind of got the media used to us doing our job for them, for lack of
Right.
better terms. There are statutes for law set up on how you get it, but we're willing to work with that, and we're working on a plan now to give accurate information, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Just as long as it's accurate. And we should have that implemented, within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. One of the things that you just kind of alluded to is the perception that it doesn't always match with the reality of what the crime situation in town is. Can you tell us just a little bit about, where do we really stand? What's Clarksdale's crime statistics actually look like versus a few years ago when you said it was so bad and we had the Safe Neighborhoods program? And compared, I know Mayor Luckett has compared us to other cities in the Delta. And just can you tell us a little bit about, really where do we stand in relation to the other towns and in the relation to what Clarksdale may or may not have been in the past?
I think, Nathan, when you get in that, it's all about, it's about the way you perceive things, the public's perception of a crime, the way it's committed, the response that you get to it. And as you grow as a law enforcement officer, if you ask the same question to a patrolman, you're going to get a different answer.
Right.
But as a chief, the chief administrator of the police department, I have to look at it as a whole. And this fortunate, I've had 17 years experience here, one stint, and then another 3. So I've got over 20 years of other chiefs and other administrators and other mayors. And I've seen several different strategies. And what I see is this. There's always going to be some type of corruption or crime in the community. And it would be very hard and unrealistic for me to say that I could challenge that one way or the other for up and down stats.
Right.
But what you can do is be prepared. And a lot of people don't understand and how a police department really works.
Yeah.
We must have a strategy of reaction. And a strategy of reaction is very difficult to set up because we react to multiple things at the same time. But then we must have a strategy of proaction.
Yeah.
So we must be proactive until the reaction happens. So we try to develop a plan for that. And if that plan is decent and we can get it to a professional response, then ultimately crime should go down.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things that affect it. A lot of things. A lot of it's the community. A lot of it's the perception of the community, the weather, whether school's in, whether school's out,
Right.
whether it's a holiday season. There's so many factors that as a police chief, I have to think about that's not passed to the general public. There is no set plan.
Yeah.
You have multiple plans, different times of the year, different divisions in your department go in separate directions to unify one plan.
Yeah.
Now that's hard to grab all at once, but
Right.
I think crime is better, obviously, and I'm going to just use one statistic. I know that before Project Safe Neighborhoods came here, one year we had 12 homicides.
Yeah.
During that year, I was assigned to the Special Ops Division, and I made the scene on those 12 homicides, so I know that that's accurate information.
Right.
Last year we had 6, and the years prior to that we stayed in that range.
Okay.
This year, fortunately, we are at 3. As we all know, and any police chief would tell you, a homicide is a reaction thing. It is an aggravated crime committed by one human on another. And it would be totally impossible to stop that.
Right.
With 18,000 citizens here, we would need 18,000 police, obviously, to
Right.
walk side by side. So what you want is the good response. You want officers to go in, you want them to gather evidence. You want them to the forensic evidence, the interrogations, the interviews, the photographs, which takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the closure of that family is not only bared by them, but as a chief, I have not only the family, the citizens, and the council looking at you for answers sometimes immediately.
Right.
For what sometimes might take 6 months to a year, depending on forensic evidence in the crime lab, because we depend on another agency to provide us with the information that we need to take another step.
Right.
But overall, I believe we're in a good place right now,
Yeah.
and I believe that we're only going to get better I think the administration is making some strides to where the police department can grow. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, we've failed to grow somewhat. The city's growing, it's coming back alive.
Yeah.
We've got the new stages. I mean, we've got more events.
Right.
But we found ourselves below the bar as far as being staffed. I hope the citizens can see a difference as far as increased patrols.
Yeah.
I hope that they see it. And I think as we grow and that number comes up, that you're only going to see more and more.
Yeah. Okay. One thing, you know, we talk about the perception, we talk about the realities of crime. What's your response to somebody who asks about, well, what about all the gunshots I hear every night? Because I know there's no way you can go around and arrest and figure out who everybody who, you know, goes out in the yard and fires off a few rounds just to scare people. And, you know, the difference between that and, you know, somebody who may actually be shooting into a building, somebody who may actually be shooting at somebody, you know, because we do hear a lot of gunfire, you know, every day. It's just kind of a regular thing here. But it's not always going to be something that, you know, leads to an arrest, obviously.
Correct. I mean, it's obvious, you know, it's unfortunate that that those events are taking place. Obviously, as a police chief and as an officer, we would ask that they not happen. We don't condone it, and absolutely would like to make an arrest every time. A lot of those that we've tried to create a situation where an individual that would like to learn how to operate a firearm can do it safely and can join the gun club that's recently been put into play in Clarksdale. You have to think about a young adult that goes out and purchases a firearm. We all know what that costs these days.
Yeah.
He wants to shoot it, and he doesn't have anywhere, so he might fire a few rounds, you know, in the backyard, in the front yard. We do have that. In the same token, we do have individuals here that are shooting at each other, and that's so unfortunate. The mindset that violence is not the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, violence is not the answer. Violence only leads to more violence. That's why we're here. That's why the courts are here. And I ask that you would trust the police department and allow us to get you there. And I've got to tell you now that I don't think a lot of people understand this. And this is, I think, a perfect opportunity for me to give it to you.
That's why we're here.
The police department is not the punishing agency. We're a vessel. We're like the mail carrier, to put it in perspective. You come in and you make your complaint. I would say 85% of the affidavits for arrest that are done here are done by citizens in the court. We very seldom do an affidavit. Most of the time if we do, it's going to be for something like domestic violence or some type of felony.
Right.
An officer can do a warrantless arrest and he files an affidavit later. So it's important for the citizens to know not only should you support the police department, but you should support and hold accountable the court system. Because we only carry the mail. It's left up to the court system to punish and to see actually what this individual is going to get. And I explained it to some children a while back, and I saw that I wasn't getting anywhere, so I said it's kind of like in school. When you go to the principal's office, the teacher doesn't give you the punishment, he does.
Right.
So we're just a vessel. So I encourage you to use that vessel to let us get you in whatever proper situation that you need to be in. And along with that, I encourage you to report. A lot of times we get citizens who get disgruntled at some point in time, and then they back up and they start reporting crime to us.
Yeah.
And then we have citizens who have maybe received a traffic citation and they get upset about, you know, the police department's priorities of addressing something that would be considered very small.
Right.
Where do you set the bar?
Yeah.
What crimes do you allow people to commit before you address it? That's a very important question.
Right.
And the simple things sometimes lead to the largest things. Do you remember Timothy McVeigh?
Oh yeah.
Most people will remember the federal court, the courthouse.
Right.
You know, he was taken into custody simply by driving a vehicle with an expired tag, a young police officer.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Addressed the
realize that.
tag and they took this individual into custody who was a terrorist on United States soil.
Yeah.
So where do you set the bar? Where do you say as a citizen and as a police chief and as a member of society that we're going to let you get away with this and we're going to selectively enforce this?
Right.
I mean, that's the worst thing you could ever do because
Well, yeah,
what's the old saying? Give 'em an inch, we take a mile.
Yeah, true.
So pretty soon, and the you know, the broken window syndrome kind of goes back to addressing the smallest crimes, and plus the crimes that happen in your presence.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times the bigger crimes that are happening, the burglaries and the aggravated assaults, are not necessarily in the officer's presence.
Right.
But we still respond to them, we still address them, and we take that process through. It's just not seen openly sometimes in the public. But
Right.
I've often pondered, you know, where do we set the bar?
Yeah.
How safe do we want our community to be?
Right.
If we want it to be safe, then law-abiding citizens will set their bar extremely high.
Yeah.
And that takes them off the radar of law enforcement, if you abide by the law.
Right.
I was in a room the other day with probably 50 people.
Yeah.
And I said, who in this room has actually committed a crime in the last week?
Yeah.
Of course, nobody raised
Of
their
course
hand.
not.
But I said, you know, let's be honest. Who's run a stop sign?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's
Stop signs, speed
speed?
limits.
Who's done? That's
Yeah.
committing a crime.
Yeah.
Some hands went up, and I said, the police did not allow you to commit that crime. Just like we're not allowing people to commit larger crimes. The
Right.
simple fact is that you got away with it because he didn't see it.
There wasn't anybody there.
He didn't have knowledge of it.
Yeah.
So he's not in some kind of conspiracy or some way allowing crime to happen. The simple fact is he just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the perception that, you know, we allow certain crimes. And I can promise you
Yeah.
that if I find that out in my department, you'll hear about it in the board meeting
Yeah.
because it'll be over and done.
Okay.
But I think that's the thing the law-abiding citizens need to think about. Where do we set the bar for ourselves? It should be extremely high.
It should
You
be.
know, we shouldn't set it down low. We should set it high and then expect the police department to set the bar high as well to make the community safe.
What about neighborhood watch organizations? What other kind of things would you advise the law-abiding citizens of Clarksdale to get involved with to try to make things safer?
The neighborhood watch programs have been awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen a rebirth of that. These people are working hard. They're inviting us. They're inviting the sheriff department. They'll invite anybody.
Yeah.
It's organized. It's set up through the Department of Justice. They have all the sheets, the forms, the contact, and we actually solved some crimes. You know, they did the unveiling of their signs.
Yeah.
And we have actually solved some crimes inside these neighborhood watch zones just from their calls.
Okay.
And that builds morale in their group and also builds morale in our police department, the Citizens Police Department, that, hey, the citizens are starting to trust in us again.
Right.
Sometimes you have to paint a picture for a young police officer. A neighborhood watch program, when we say it, what are we saying? We say neighborhood watch program. Those people trust the police or they wouldn't have started the program because their program won't work without us. And our program won't work without them. The whole city should be a neighborhood watch. Technically the whole city. If you see something that you have concern about, you don't have to identify yourself, but at least let the law enforcement agencies know so we can start addressing it, we can start looking at it, we can make preparations,
Yeah.
a reaction plan, which is very difficult. The reaction plan is difficult.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking some time to talk to us and fill us in on how things are going here. And we want to encourage all the citizens of Clarksdale, anybody that's watching this, if they have any further questions, Chief Reed's made himself extremely available and will continue to do so in the future, I assume. Appreciate
Yes, sir.
talking to us.
I appreciate y'all coming. Thank
No
you
problem.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.